Hello, everyone. It's episode 63 of the Fitness Business Growth Podcast. I'm here with Connor Inch. How are you, Connor?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
Mate, I'm really nervous.
Why are you nervous?
I can tell you why. There's very few things on planet Earth I feel less confident speaking about than your specialty, which is copywriting, mate. So I've seen some of your work, and I'm not just blowing smoke here. It is truly, truly amazing. And when I read those landing pages, I was even getting emotional.
Man, yeah, copywriting and all that stuff, it is intimidating. But once you kind of see past what's going on, it becomes a lot less intimidating. So, I mean, we all started with no copywriting knowledge, right? I remember the first time I heard it, I did the same thing everyone does and thought copywriting was about trademarks and IP and all that kind of stuff.
So, mate, I'm guessing someone doesn't go to school and say, I want to grow up to be a copywriter. So, mate, can you take me on the Connor Inch journey from how you started? Was it more like marketing, then niched into copywriting? And how have you developed to where you are today, mate?
Yeah, cool. All right, I'll give you the short version because I got the longer version, which involves a lot of, and there's some copywriting stuff you're going to learn here just by me saying there's some principles going on here. The longer version involves me taking off clothes for money, but that's something I'll have to divulge at a later date. But I was a personal trainer. So I was in the fitness industry myself, actually, and I wanted more clients. So I was listening to all these podcasts, Jonathan Goodman, Bedros Kouilian, all of those people. Some of them I ended up actually writing for.
Mate, I'd love to get some context, mate. What year is this?
Man, I'm terrible with timelines, right? I have ADHD, so it all just blurs into one. But I'm going to say circa 2018, 2019.
Okay.
And yes, I'm listening, and I keep hearing this word copywriting and funnels. They keep talking about copywriting and funnels and lead magnets and all this stuff. And I have no idea what they're talking about. And I kind of went down that rabbit hole. Ended up following a copywriter called Mike Samuels, who you might be familiar with, or at least some of your listeners might be, who was heavily involved in the fitness niche at the time. And I was messaging him one day saying, I need more clients in my business. Have you got a copywriting course for personal trainers? And he was like, well, just chatting away to me. And he's like, I'm actually releasing one on how to become a copywriter. And I was like, okay, fuck, that sounds great. Sign me up. And he released this course. I didn't have the money for it at the time. I was a broke PT. I put it on a credit card, which if he'd known that I was doing that, he would never have sold it to me. But it turned out to be the best decision I ever made. And that program is called the Freedom Kickstarter. And it literally did kickstart my career. So that's the short version.
So I said you off air, and I mean this as respectfully as possible. It took me far too long to realize how important copywriting is, or what I would refer to today as problem awareness in marketing. That's kind of even today how I view it, because as I mentioned, mate, I am the world's worst copywriter on planet Earth. So when you were in the fitness industry and you're looking to grow your business, why did you think that copywriting was the answer? Or why did you think that, what made you go down that path?
Apologies, Jamie, you cut out there halfway through your question.
So I was just saying, like, what made you think that copywriting was the answer to grow your fitness business at that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to remember. I think just hearing it being talked about enough. And it made, when it was kind of sold to me as it's salesmanship in print, right? It's text-based salesmanship. That kind of sold it to me. You can actually get clients just by writing words. I was like, this is great. And that stuff did always interest me. Like I did go to business school when I was younger, but I never learned about copywriting or anything like that. So yeah. That's
you said that's so beautiful then. So copywriting is effectively sales on print.
Yeah.
So you're basically selling at mass. How do you sell someone without having that half-hour phone call? And that's what intrigued you, like to move people down the funnel, I guess.
Yeah, not even that though. I mean, just getting people in the first place, right? Even if it required a phone call to close them in the first place, it's getting people to trust you enough and to be compelled enough to book a call or to reach out to you and have a conversation in the first place. Yeah, you can sell with copy alone. Absolutely. There's plenty of people that do it. But for a lot of, especially high ticket stuff, there's often a phone call that's needed as well. And just being able to do that with words, I think is great.
Well, apologies, Connie, you cut it there, mate.
Yeah. It keeps cutting out between us.
Yeah, all good. You was just saying that just like copy can sell, like sells for brands all over the world, and then copy can, I guess, get people to raise their hand and show interest in the first place.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that's super powerful, right? Being able to take a stranger and turn them into a client, or at least get their attention and convert them into a lead. I think that's super powerful.
It's effectively like the first part of the copy, how I understand it, is like it's to sell the click. And then they go and read the next part of the copy. It is to sell the next action, which might be to book in a call. And then the next action is to view the thank you page. The next action is to hop on the call. So at what point did you realize that copywriting just wasn't for the funnels, it was for the ad itself? It's in every single part of the marketing process.
I think when I was just hearing about copywriting and they were explaining, how it works, what it does, all of that kind of stuff, I think that's when I realized that it can be used everywhere. But the mistake a lot of people make, as you rightly said, is not knowing what the intention of that piece of copy is, right? At ad level, you're not trying to sell them on the entire program. Like you said, you're trying to sell them on clicking the link to find out more. Will that include pre-selling them on aspects of the program? Absolutely it will. But you're not writing like a long form sales page and trying to convince them at that point in time. The main convincing might be done on a phone call. But you've loaded them with the copy beforehand. So you've already persuaded them, right? It's persuasion. You've already they're almost pre-sold. If it's good copy, they're pre-sold when they get on the phone call with you. And that's where you get those close rates of, 60, 80%, whatever it is.
I'm working for an air locker at the moment, mate. It's like an altitude training gym franchise in Australia. And I was looking at their ad account, and their ads were bombing terribly. And the reason being is exactly what you just said. They were using their copy to sell altitude training, not the next step in the process to get them to take an action to then educate them on altitude training. And it's such an important point in terms of like, well, where are you in the funnel and what part of the copy, what words are you saying, what words are you writing to get them to take that next step? And I'll follow on from what you said, making the sales process easy. So like, it's no secret, like I work for the 4% Club. I was one of their closers for about 12 months. Sold over $1 million in 8 months, something I'm really, really proud of. Love AG, love AP. They taught me so much. And when I listened to call recordings before I took my first sales calls, I couldn't believe the laydowns. And then I went and investigated the funnel, and I saw your landing pages, and I saw the thank you page, and I saw the webinar, and I saw everything. It's like a crescendo. Like they see the ad, they book in a call, they watch the video, they take the next step, They're on the phone call, half hour later, there is so much sunk cost. Like it's actually the logical next step to buy. Were you cutting out, Connor?
Yeah, it cut out again, mate.
Oh, all good, mate. I'll edit this post. So I was just saying, just like I work for the 4% Club, and I was on those sales calls, and it was just a crescendo from like interest to booking a call to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. The only logical thing to do was to buy.
Yeah, exactly that. You're removing objections, you're answering questions they might have. You're also establishing trust and credibility, which is really important in a niche that was as vulnerable as what the 4% Club was serving. I think the mistake a lot of people make as well is twisting the knife too much. So it's not just all about problem, making them feel like shit, because that will actually attract really bad buyers as well. So there's building that trust and relationship as well through the words.
Mate, I'd love to expand on that. Not twisting the knife too much. Going back to problem awareness in marketing, it's like, hey, are you tired, lacking energy, hate your life, there's no love in your relationship? And then you just keep pouring on them. Yeah. So when you turn the knife, or then you solution, like how do you when you're writing copy, how do you go through that process? Are you thinking about one particular problem, one person, and taking them through like, well, what is their problem? What is their emotion? What do they want to accomplish? What do they want to feel?
Yeah. Mate, you say you're a bad copywriter, but you've got all the fundamentals in your head there, mate. Like,
oh,
it's
mate,
pretty much...
Yeah. So like I love marketing. I like it way more than it is my passion, right? Like it really is. Yeah. And I love making video content. I love talking about it, but just the idea of me putting it on words, I just can't articulate it on paper the same way I can speak about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, what we're doing essentially is what you said. We're also doing what we call dimensionalizing it. So how does that show up in their daily life? But we're also being, and I'm doing it now as I'm speaking when I'm saying we're being inclusive, especially if you write into a female language, being inclusive of our language. So we're not pointing the finger, which can work in more kind of like macho alpha male niches, like you're the problem, you need to toughen up. But in the female niches, especially, you've got to have a bit more care and a bit more inclusivity. So we're looking at, sometimes we struggle with this, right? And it means that we feel like this. So we're just adding the extra layer to it without, making them feel rotten, right? We want them nodding their head. I always say you want them nodding their head. You don't want them crying as they're reading it.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's one of the biggest things, right? Like on sales calls, the cost of inaction. But then like if you continually to pour onto them, they end up feeling hopeless. So it's like after you do the cost of inaction and like this will how I'll feel if I don't achieve it. It's about bringing them back to reality. Like, hey, like that hasn't happened yet. Like this is where you are. And then like, well, let's future state them. Well, what happens if you do achieve the goal? What does that feel like? And just once again, bringing them back to reality. And then, hey, this is where you are. We have two roads. You can walk down either one. Like, let's choose the right one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a massive crossover with sales, ethical selling,
Oh.
and copywriting. You know, I shout out to a guy called Ryan Tuckwood. He owns Swish Sales Coaching. I don't know if you're familiar with him. It's all about ethical selling. I went to one of his boot camps recently, and I was just listening, and I was like, so much of this stuff is applicable to copywriting as well, because it is salesmanship in print, like I said. So yeah, it's showing them what can happen without fear mongering as well.
Yeah, and when you say like a sales with ethically, not fear mongering, what did you learn from Ryan? What was the biggest takeaway from that event?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question? It cut out. Your editor's going to have a great time with this podcast.
Yeah, right. Being at that Swish sales event, what was your biggest takeaway in conjunction with like selling with ethically and copywriting?
Man, just the crossover, just that the huge crossover, and also this is a really good copywriting lesson. It comes from Ryan, and he shares this freely online, so I feel okay sharing this here. Is his MCP framework. So getting people's trust and earning their trust by getting them to buy into you first, then the company, and then the product.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So, and that works whether it's a sales call or whether you're writing copy. It's the same thing. You, especially in a saturated market like fitness, they're buying into you or the brand. When I say you, I mean the brand or you as an individual. And I know sales works much in the same way. You're building that rapport. You're getting them to like you first. Then you're getting them to put their trust in the product. And then, in the company. We've helped over 5,000 people lose weight. We've got this doctor, dietitian approved method, and then the product.
One of the things I used to struggle with, mate, I'm very much data. Like, hey, like I've done this before. I can help you get this. If I do 1/10 of what I'd say, you're going to be happy. And I would miss that whole connection step.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where like, why aren't they buying? And it just got to like, they just didn't like me.
Yeah.
Like they didn't like my direct style of communication.
So that actually was a really big takeaway from the Swish Sales Bootcamp, which I don't want to divulge too much, giving away his IP, but is understanding people's personality type using the DISC profiling and how you would interact with them. So there are certain people who would love that data-driven approach that you naturally revert to, and you've got to assess that person. You've got maybe 30 seconds to kind of figure out where they sit on the profile spectrum. Are they going to engage more with you if you're giving them the data and the facts, or are they more about thoughts and feelings? Are they more about stability? Are they just straight to the point and almost abrupt? You've got to match what you're doing there. And when you're doing copy, you'll have elements of each of those approaches in your longer form copy. And in the shorter form, you might have different elements of those mixed in, but you also might just have different creatives that target different personality types.
Going off that the DISC modeling and like, I guess mirroring the person is a great way to say it.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone like myself who is data driven, who is direct, like no bullshit approach? Like there's a case to be made that like I only want to work with people that would respond to that type of messaging, that type of communication. What are your thoughts around that? Or is it more like give them what they want on the front and then allow more people to get what they need on the back?
Exactly. Sell them candy, give them broccoli, with the caveat, don't mislead them.
Of course. Yeah. It's really interesting, just the whole like that mirror matching thing, because sometimes it's like an absolute no brainer, and it's just like they just want a hug. I'm just like I'm not that guy.
Yeah. I guess you once you're more aware of what the other personality types are like, it becomes easier to match. I would say so. For me, I'm actually quite even across all the DISC personality types, which is an advantage to me because then I can be fluid between them, which is why I think like my virtual recording service that I do with people, I think that works so well because I'm working with people that are D, so I know how to interact with them. I'm working with people that are I, who require a different kind of approach. So I think it's definitely easier when you're more even, but it can be learned. You just need to get more familiar with their language, the way they're communicating with you, and be like, oh yeah, that's something that this type of personality would say, and just looking out for those things and then starting to match it and just feeding off their energy.
Yeah, I had a call about a minute ago with the 3 UFC gyms in Sydney, and I'm wearing a Colby Covington shirt, and UFC 300 is this weekend, so there was no issue connecting with them.
Perfect. Yeah, you had a connection there, right? There was something that's like a referral almost, right? It's so much easier to sell when you have something in common with the person. It's nothing worse than when you get on a sales call with someone who is either trying too hard or is just completely soulless, bland, and devoid of personality. And that the same applies with your copy as well.
100%. So when you went through the copywriting course, you developed a love, a passion for it. You became better and better and better and more established. How did you end up writing for some of the biggest fitness brands? And that is not an exaggeration in the world. How do you discover them? How do they discover you? And just some hard facts, if you have any stats on opt-in rates or booking rates or cost per acquisition, and just saw the impact that your writing actually made, because I still don't think people understand how important it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not actively advertising my copywriting services anymore, but I still write for a few people, so I don't have that data fresh in mind as such. I do have a couple that I can recall doubled conversions for the 4% Club, and I have a testimonial on my old copywriting website that literally says that. So that's huge, right? If you've got a company that's doubling conversions and we're reducing cost per acquisition because of the creatives we're creating on the front end as well, I mean that can change your business. To take a business from, say, $5 million a year to $10 million a year just by writing some words. And obviously it's not all me, right? I'm not that arrogant to think that it's all me. You've got to have a really good marketing team. They've got to have marketing branding, got to have really good media buyers, customer support. They've got to be able to deliver on the service. But that's how powerful it can be, right? Say 5 million to 10 million a year, plus reducing how much it costs to acquire a customer. So let's say it was 500 to acquire a customer and you get it down to 300. That can have a huge impact because then you can spend more to acquire more customers.
And if you're making 100 sales a week, it's $200. It's 20 grand a week less on ad spend.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just from, testing creators. And I'm not saying those were the exact numbers. The doubling conversions was accurate. And then as far as how did I go to write for some of these big brands? Not just in Australia, but in the US. I've written for the biggest fitness brand. I'm not going to say who they are because I don't want to be associated with that brand. But I wrote for one of the biggest fitness brands in the world. There were probably 3 elements to it. The first element is getting good at copy. You have to be good at what you do, right? So many copywriters, freelance copywriters, want to skip that step. The second thing was being in the right rooms with the right people. So I actually paid to be in certain masterminds that had high-level business owners and copywriters. And the third thing was when I was applying for gigs or I was reaching out to people, was just being different and actually applying those rules of getting people's attention, turning it into interest, creating desire and action. So whether it's cold outreach or building relationships with people, I always put extra effort into it, which a lot of copywriters didn't do.
So effectively, your resume and your cover letter was a exact replica of like your copywriting abilities. You would have sparked curiosity, and they took the next step.
Mate, that's what it's all about. There's literally, even for this business now, I've gone the extra mile. I've done handwritten letters in the mail to get clients. I have done custom landing pages. I've done all sorts of stuff that makes the person I'm reaching out to feel special and important. And I think that can apply en masse when you're writing your sales letter and your ads as well. You want to make that person feel like they matter. So whether you're doing the one-on-one outreach like I was to get clients or you're doing it en masse, the same rules apply.
Yeah. So for the VSL that I use before people book in with me for our done for you everything service, I use the perfect webinar formula from Russell Brunson.
Great.
And it is a copywriting masterclass from like, hey, gym owner, does this sound like you?
Yeah.
And then it's just actually amazing at the roller coaster it takes them on. And then by the time they get to me, like, hey, like that webinar just like you literally described me word for word.
Yeah. So again, that whole thing of getting them nodding along. And I'm going to say something that might not seem that significant now, but the more you think about it, the more significant it is. At least it was to me when I started thinking like this. If you zoom out of all copy, the perfect webinar, the ad, the landing pages, they all follow one of 2 frameworks. That's so simple. It's either PAS, which is call out the problem, agitate the problem, so how it shows up in their daily life, how it affects them, what can go wrong, etc., and then present the solution. Like if you zoom out on the perfect webinar, that's what it is. If you zoom out on the ads, that's what it is. And if you're not doing problem-based, then it's AIDA. Grab their attention by saying something controversial, something interesting, something that's just attention grabbing to your niche. Turn that attention into an interest, turn that interest into a desire, and then get them to take an action.
Yeah, so 99% of gyms in Australia use AIDA. Just attention, women in X area.
Yeah, I mean, they are literally, yeah,
Interest.
attention women. Do you want to drop 2 dress sizes in the next 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Interest.
Yeah.
And then you create that desire, you make it achievable, show them the outcome of dropping dress sizes, and then tell them, well, click here. That's your action.
Yeah, cool. And writing for some of the biggest fitness brands in the world, a little bit off topic here. What did you learn from the CEOs? What did you learn from the owners and founders of those companies in regards to their standards of work and just how they operate those 8-figure, maybe even 9-figure businesses?
They're not usually heavily involved in the day to day. So first, they wouldn't be dealing with a copywriter like me most of the time. They might interact occasionally, but generally they've outsourced to someone really dialed in. So that whether that's an agency or a marketing director, that's the first thing. So they know their zones of genius. And some of the owners that was their genius. It was marketing. So that was bucking the trend a little bit. The other thing is they test relentlessly. They understand that they could pay me as a copywriter $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a month for a bunch of ads, and 90% of them won't get great results. It's that 10% that can change their entire business. And they're willing to spend the money on giving it a shot.
Are you there, mate? Are you there, Connor?
Yeah, I'm there. Which bit?
Mate,
where did you hear up to?
I got up to they will test 90%. They'll just test.
Yep, and they're okay with if 90% of them are losers, because they know those 10% can be absolute game changers, and they're willing to take the shot. And this might be a little bit controversial. I don't want to shit on Australians, but in my experience, Americans are a lot more willing to spend big money on trying than Australians are.
Expand on that. Why do you think Americans are compared to Australians? Why do you think that's the case?
Repeat the question.
So expand on that. Why do you think Americans are more willing to spend money than Australians?
It's the American culture. They're taught from day one that they can achieve anything they want to do. They can be what they want to be. In Australia and the UK, we're kind of a bit more reserved. Like, do your job. I mean, if you're lucky, when you retire, blah, blah, blah. And we have tall poppy syndrome over here in Australia as well. And that's not a blanket statement, right? I've worked with some Aussie brands who get it. Totally get it, and they're willing to spend. But as a kind of trend, and most copywriters in Australia will say, they will generally choose to work with Americans because they're like, yeah, let's go, we can do it, let's pump it out, doesn't matter if it doesn't work, let's just try. Whereas over here they're like, oh, can you guarantee I'm going to get X leads for X amount of spend? Well, no, because we're giving it a shot, we're giving it a crack.
So the Australian company's more going to try one ad, you've got one shot, we're going to use $100 of ad spend, and the US company is, hey, we've got $1,000 of ad spend, we're going to give you 10 opportunities and we're going to find the winner. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah. And obviously we spoke about fitness brands, like your copywriting ability. Have you gone to other parts of like other niches, other types of businesses and wrote copy for them too?
Oh, shit, yeah. Yeah, loads of niches. I was a niche whore for the longest time. I wrote for pretty much every niche. Man, I wrote for eyelash extensions for Black women in America through to BizUp, your kind of BizUp. I still write for a BizUp guru in the Amazon space.
It's so interesting, right? Because like we sell women over the age of 50, right? And the gym owners will often say like, how can you sell these women over the age of 50? And then you're writing for African-American women that want eyelash extensions. So how do you put yourself in their shoes and have that inclusive writing style where you are talking about we?
Yeah. So one of the key places to start with copywriting is your research. So I always put when I used to teach people how to do copywriting, it was always research was the key thing. So I'd be going on forums, I'd be finding out where the avatar hangs out. So I was going on all these forums as like a white man, joining these African American Facebook pages and going on Amazon reviews and just getting how they speak. So like, hey girl, finding all these words I didn't even know what they meant, so I had to go away and Google them. There was the words they kept using, because I don't know about eyelashes and extensions and how that particular avatar communicates, and just immersing myself in that world and collecting data, right? So pulling out sentences and phrases and reviews and stuff that seem to be represent the mass.
Okay. And over your years, you now transition from being an expert copywriter to having a content creation business, or I would love you to expand on that, how the copywriting has transferred over to the content creation, because is it effectively we're taking words from paper and then putting them through a video? Like, how have you found that transition?
There's a massive crossover between content and copywriting. I mean, good content is copywritten, right? There's different types of copywriting. There's content copywriting, there's direct response copywriting. They've all got the same fundamentals. You're grabbing attention, You're creating interest, desire. Generally with content, it's either for a brand or personal brand. So they're buying into you for that whole thing again that I spoke about, Ryan Tuckwood, myself company, company product, right? You're taking them, same principles apply. So yeah, it's the same thing. Hook people in at the start, create that interest, that trust, that desire, all of that stuff. So it's a natural transition.
So I'd love to role play just to get an example of what it's like working with you. So I come to you and say, hey, Connor, I want to work with fitness business owners around Australia. I want them to buy into me first. Connor, the copywriting marketing expert, what are the next 3 to 5 steps that you would take me through to ensure that people are buying into me?
Yeah, great question. I actually qualify the people I work with, right? So they have to be experts in what they do first and foremost. They have to be interesting. So you have to have a personality, which most people do. And you have to have some experiences. They're the first things. So are you actually able to help these people? Yeah, cool. All right. Then we'll start sharing your experiences and your thoughts and your opinions on things. And that's where people start aligning with you. You kind of start building your tribe. And yeah, they're buying into you at that point. We're also sharing useful stuff. I think a lot of the bland, so I specialize in video content, short form video content. That's what I help people do. A lot of the bland generic stuff, like here's 3 ways to do X, Y, and Z, those kind of stuff, they have their place. But if that's all your content is, you're not going to connect to people. So you're focusing on authenticity and sharing opinions that are your own. And that's something I want to stress as well. My good friend Catherine Horn, who also serves the fitness niche, she does content creation, marketing in a box essentially for fitness brands. She's always big on, is the opinion you're sharing actually your opinion, or are you just regurgitating something you heard on the Joe Rogan podcast or the Chris
Williams
podcast?
I love that so much, right? Like just share your experience, and it's the truth. People can't, like, it actually happened. Like, I went through this experience. This is what I learned.
Yeah, some of my best performing content that sparks the most conversations have nothing to do with business or very little to do with business. I shared the other day about my blind chicken getting sick. I got a fair few people just having conversations, people that could be my avatar, but we're not talking about business. We're just talking about life. And down the road, as we build that relationship, they may become clients, right? But it's a conversation starter.
In your opinion, the terms of like them buying you first, we call it the connection in marketing.
Yeah.
How important is that? Because obviously there's people that connect all the time but have no substance, can't actually help, and there's people that just like, you should do what I've done because I'm the best, and have no connection.
There's a place for both. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but we're in a world where the loudest voices often get the most attention. And being it seems to be the more controversial you can be, the more attention you'll get. I don't personally believe that should be your approach, just being controversial for the sake of it. I believe connecting with the right people, therefore you'll attract the people you want to work with. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say on that.
And in regards to like short form video, obviously it's really taken off the last few years with TikTok, Reels, Shorts. How have you seen it translate over to generating leads, to generating clients, and then also just pushing them towards the longer form stuff and building a brand?
Yeah. Well, exactly what you just said. One of the ways is you push them to longer form stuff. So you might be creating intentional content where you're driving them to a longer form podcast, YouTube video, sales page, VSL, training, something like that. But the way I see it is that there's a few ways that their short form video content kind of helps brands. It can get new people into your world. I don't focus on getting viral for the sake of going viral though, because I think that's pointless and that can actually be damaging to your brand. Going viral for the sake of going viral.
You can get the wrong followers.
And it can cost you. Imagine if your calendar's booked out with all the wrong people. You know what I mean? Versus being less busy, but having the right perfect fit people. But also I see short form videos branding assets. So let's say you're advertising or you're not advertising, but people are researching and they come across you and they've got all these videos they can consume very quickly and easily. And they're interesting and you're speaking to them, their problems, you're telling your story, versus they go on a page where someone's just sharing generic carousels. They're probably going to be buying into you more. And it might not be instant. It might take time, right? You've got those different, again, going to the different personality types. There's a lot of personality types who need a lot more reassurance to buy. So they're consuming these micro bits of content, right? Continuously. And that's where you build the know, like, and trust. And over time, they might see the right video at the right time. They're like, you know what, I've seen enough. I'm going to reach out to this person for help.
I've experienced firsthand where I've had sales calls like, "Hey, Jamie, I just binged your entire podcast catalog."
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, well, that's a pretty easy sale. And I am the biggest advocate of video content because you can't fake it. If you're on a long form video for an hour with Connor or the next person or the next person, they consume that content. They're going to make three decisions. Do I like this person? Does he know what he's talking about? And would I like to work with him?
Yeah,
And
exactly that.
I truly believe, I could be wrong, my opinion, I think people are fucking sick to death of high ticket sales. I think people are sick to death of going through this long, arduous sales process. And you see it with school and like the community funnels, like, hey, I like this person. I want to work with him. Here's the price. Let's get cracking. And I really think that's like the world that we're going to after going through all like the high ticket funnels.
Sorry, I just missed the last bit of your question. Could you
Yeah, I was
repeat
just
it,
saying,
mate?
I really do think we're moving towards a world where you have to build that like, know, and trust. You have to build a brand, and people just choose to work with you. Price is given to you on the spot, as opposed to having to go through the long, arduous sales process.
Yeah, I agree with you. I will say there'll always be that small percentage of people that are ready to buy, where those old funnels will still work. Might be 5% of people, who are ever going to buy from you might be ready at that moment in time. So they still have a place. But absolutely, I have never hidden the pricing for my services. For example, you can go on my website and see them, and I still get people inquire through the website to have a chat and a catch up to make sure it's right for them. So I think transparency is going to be more and more important, but it also filters out. Yes, copywriting principle and sales principle, you're supposed to build the value, then present the price. But honestly, I don't want to work with people I have to convince. I want people to be like, yeah, this is the thing I need. How much is it? How does it work?
So I think there's a trap there, because I've done that myself, where I had a sales call about 12 months ago, and it was a gym owner, and I knew I could help this guy. Like, he had an outdoor program. We grew our first outdoor program to 509 members in 12 months. He had 30 million. I'm like, mate, I can help you get to 60. And it was laughable, like how much of a good fit we were. And he wanted to think about it. And I sent him a few text messages a few days after saying, hey, mate, like, what are you going to do? What's your choice? And I beat this guy over the head to work with me. And like, he was the worst client I've ever had.
Yeah.
And there's just something about like you want people that want to work with you. And even if you can help them, if they're not open to it, like, it's going to end in tragedy. And they're the clients that you complain to your partner about at night.
Yeah, and I've become more ruthless with those people. Not ruthless, but set more boundaries with people like that. I'm very picky about who I work with, not in an egotistical way, but I just know that if one client is demanding all my attention, I'm then not going to serve all the other clients as well as I could do. So it's really important to weed out in the sales and marketing process those bad fit people.
So what exactly do I get for my $25? Or like, here's $5,000, mate. I'm so excited. Let's rock and roll for 12 months.
Yeah, 100%. That's not to say all low ticket buyers are a pain in the ass. If you take them through the right ascension model, you can absolutely find some gems in your low ticket buyers. But yes, low ticket buyers can be a pain in the ass.
Oh, you cut out, mate? Are you there, Connor?
Yeah.
I'm not going to post this podcast, but I'm going to get lots of reels out of it.
Yeah.
And we can refilm another day. So, mate, at the start of the start of the podcast, sorry, something really important. You said people aren't comfortable speaking on camera. And it's hard for me to understand that, because it's the exact way that I like to communicate.
Yeah.
So when you work with a new client and you know they're brilliant, you know they can help, you know they have experience, how do you bring them out of their shell? How do you take a client who may have never filmed a piece of short form video in their life and take them into a content making machine?
Yeah, great question. I love this question. So, I mean, speaking on camera is up there with public speaking, right? It's very public speaking is probably the number one fear that people have. And speaking on camera is very close to it. I'm on the call with my clients. So they're talking to me, which is still intimidating for some people if they have never spoken on camera. The main thing I do is let them know there's absolutely nothing at stake here. So I actually encourage them to screw up. I'm like, you're going to stumble, you're going to you're going to you're going to forget what you were talking about because you're so nervous and that's all you're thinking about. Do that. And the first 10 minutes, I say to them, look, the first 10 minutes we might have to redo. There's no pressure because we're just having a conversation. We'll go back and we'll revisit them. We'll edit out all the mistakes you've made. Like, that's what we're here to do. So that really, think helps reassure people. Then when they see what happens when they make a mistake, and I say, cool, just carry on from where you left off. No worries. that reassures them. And then I'll say to them at the end, because by like video 3 or 4, topic 3 or 4, when we're on these virtual recording sessions, they start loosening up. I'm like, cool, we got to the end. That wasn't so bad, was it? No, I really had a good time. Never heard anyone say otherwise, right? And I'm like, cool, let's reshoot 1 and 2 because they were a bit crap. Right? I'm usually getting them laughing. They're comfortable by this point. I'm matching their energy, and depends on the person, right? I say, someone who's a bit more sensitive, I might say 1 and 2, we could probably do them a little bit better. But the other person, I'm like, they're absolute dog shit. Let's do them again. But I don't say that at the time because that's going to intimidate them. So it's just meeting them where they're at, letting them know there's nothing at stake here.
And you find they're looking into your eyes, talking to you. It's a lot easier. If you ask me a question, hey, Jamie, how do you grow a gym? I can go on for half an hour, but I'm telling you what I would do, and that you find that's more helpful than speaking to a camera or having a transcript. Or do you have scripting, or do you have a teleprompter, or like, what are your thoughts around that?
No, we have no scripts. That's our USP, right? We're scriptless. So they're just having a conversation with me, but I will guide them. Right? I'm like, oh, you said that really good. Carry on talking about this. Or, oh, I've just thought of a really good hook. Can you say this? So we'll get to the end of the video of the topic for that particular video, and I'll say, I've just thought of a really good hook. Just say this line for me. And then in editing, post-production, we'll cut that line and we'll put it at the start of the video, for example.
So we don't use... I love real life examples. So for example, gym owners, do you want to get 50 leads? We record a video for 30 seconds. It's really good. Towards the end of it, hey, Jamie, that was a great video, but I think you should start with exhausted gym owners. Are you tired of not having any leads? And then record again, and you will perfect that hook, perfect that video, and that's what the client ends up getting.
Yeah, and we remove all the dead space, all the boring stuff, all the waffle, so they can just talk. Like they can ramble, right? We're going to turn that 3 minutes of them talking into a 40-second clip.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. It's so cool. And you find that, like, are you prompting your clients with hooks, or do they come ready, or are they not? Like, what are your, like, what? Because for example, like, I know how to grow a gym. Probably better than you, fair to say. You can write copy better than me. So how would you guide me on the hooks? If I'm a client of yours, how would that work where you would know my client's pain points as well as I do?
Research. It all comes back to research, man. But as well, what happens 90% of the time these days, and I think it comes down to me guiding people better at the start, is they say the hooks themselves halfway in the when they're talking. So they'll be talking for a minute and they'll say something, and I'm just, with my copywriting experience, I'm listening for that line. You know what I mean? And they'll just say something just in passing, and I'm like, cool, mental note, that's the hook for that video.
Yeah.
Or I might
so
write
90%.
It down.
So I want to help gym owners grow. 95% of gym owners have worked with agencies, have burnt money. You're like, bang, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And you might have said that line like a minute into the video. I'm like, no, that's going to the start in post-production.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. And with your video agency, because I'm super curious, because I've got lots of gym owners that want to make video content, but they're terrified to pick up a camera and start recording. What is your advice to them?
Okay.
For someone who is, public speaking is number one, speaking to camera is number two. What is your advice to them?
With love, get over yourself. Because every single person who records video, except for the freaks, maybe like you, Jamie, most people hated the first time they recorded video. I did. I was terrible. The first time I shot a VSL, my video editor actually came back and said, he was Filipino and he was very polite. And he was like, I'm really sorry, sir. Any chance you could record this again? And I was like, was it bad? He was like, yes, it was terrible. So, you know what I mean? It's like, just do it. Get the first one done. You think Gary Vee was good on camera the first time he spoke on camera? No, he was shy. Alex Hormozy, no way. He was terrible. And he's even said as much. Just
There's a great Mr. Beast. There's a great Mr. Beast video saying like, hey, like your first 100 videos, no one's going to watch them.
Yeah.
Just every video, just make one thing better.
It's practice. My first reel, I'm speaking into the camera like this, and I actually shared it with a client because he was worried he didn't look good, and I was like, man, you look 10 times better than I did on my first one. And I'm standing here. Did you know that in 1977 there were over 300? And I'm like that now. You were like, when I post reels, I'm like, did you know that in 1997 there was all this guy? It just comes with time. Like the first, your audience is in the fitness space, right? First time you go to the gym, you're all retarded and you're wobbly and you're dropping shit and you're all over the place. Do a few workouts and you start getting the coordination and the balance. It's the same with the videos, but you've got to get those first ones done.
One of the most interesting things I find, even that I consider myself to be pretty confident on camera. I've gone back and watched that first reel. I'm like, what is that shit?
I do that weekly.
So no matter how confident you are, whether you like it or you don't know, like just little things. Like I started my podcast with an iMac webcam, and now I have a 4K Sony camera. And I started with no microphone, and now I have a Samsung Q9U with soundproofing under my desk. Just improve one thing every single time.
Yeah, Laurel Porty, who is a Facebook ads expert, she makes a couple of mil a month, I think, with her communities. And she has an ad running at the moment that says, this is my iPhone, whatever it is. I don't have iPhone, so I don't know what numbers they are. Let's say iPhone 7 from 2016. this is what I record all my ads on, and I've got a multi-million-dollar a year business. You don't need a fucking studio. You don't need an expensive camera. You just need you, right? You say something interesting and valuable. That's the main thing. And like I said, even if you're crap on camera, you got to get those crap ones out the way. And no one's going to call you out on it. No one's going to be like, ugh.
Mate, I actually don't like Hamosi's overproduced videos. I like the ones when he's at his webcam with his hat on in his little cupboard, just spitting fire, right? So like, it doesn't, even if like they're not polished, some people will like what they like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good mix, and I'm glad you said that. I think sometimes just you walking and sharing thoughts can be really good videos. For those who are nervous on camera, or those where branding is really important, then heavy editing obviously has its merits. So do what makes you feel comfortable is what I say to people. But absolutely, I've done some content where I'm just walking around and sharing my thoughts. There's a lot of creators who do that, and they do very well. So I do believe in good editing. Otherwise, I'd be contradicting my business. But at the same time, don't let that stop you. If you don't have the facilities for a good editor, just start sharing stuff, right? Just do it.
Yeah. One of the things I've really noticed too, mate, is like I spend quite a bit of money on ads of like our money and client money, probably over 30K a week at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think works is not what typically works.
Yeah.
So even if you have like the best, most polished video and you've taken 100 takes, you could launch that ad and it absolutely tanks, and then you're going to have your feelings hurt. So I love what you said. Just get over yourself.
Yeah, with love, of course. Like, I know that's easy for me to say. It probably sounds easy for me to say that, in the position I'm done where I've recorded quite a lot of content, but it's true. It's 100% true. And also, if your video only gets 200 views, where could you stand on a street corner and get 200 people to listen to you? That's not that bad. Getting 200 views, getting 50 views on a video. Like, where else could you capture 50 people's attention? So don't beat yourself up. Like, seriously, that's not that bad. Especially if it's 50 people who, let's say 10% of them are your ideal client. That's 5 people. That compounds over time. That's another benefit of short form video. Compounds over time. Each time you're getting 5 people who might be interested in the future in your services. You're building up an audience of relevant people.
Yeah, so when I go to publish our podcast, like I get the last 7-day stats, it pops up on my screen. I'm like, wow, I had 28 people download yesterday. Who are they? Like, it's a really cool feeling.
They went to all that effort. They could have 100%. Gone and done whatever people do on the internet these days. I always say watch cat videos, but that's like from 20 years ago. People used to do that. Show my age a little bit.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed, and this is just from my experience, Connor, is if I ever talk on something that I'm not an expert at or I'm not confident in speaking, then I turn into a blubbering idiot where I'm stuttering, I'm mumbling. It takes me 100 takes. But if I'm talking about like, hey, Jimona, let's set up this Facebook ad this way, I could sit in a room with Bedros Koulian himself and have that conversation. But if I'm talking about fucking HR or copywriting, so I think there's something to be said just about being authentic and being yourself and telling the truth and speaking from your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And being vulnerable as well. Now, a slight transgression as well, like vulnerability doesn't mean crying on camera and telling people how you're going through a divorce or you're in the middle of an eating disorder. When you share vulnerability, it's generally something you want to have overcame. If you feel like you still need counseling, or you're still struggling with the problem, then probably don't share that on social media. But if you've been through shit and you've come out the other side and you've learned some lessons from it, that's where vulnerability is powerful. Otherwise, you might as well just wave a big red flag and say, don't work with me.
100%. So, mate, your agency, your content agency, like what is it called? Like how does someone work with you? And what does like the first month, second month, or third month look like working alongside yourself?
Yeah. So the agency is called Multiply My Media. First month, second month, third month. I mean, first month we're setting you up. And it really depends on the person. It's so different for everyone. I get a lot of clients who are really good on camera, celebrities, like experts, doctors, things like that. And then I get people who are very nervous, or maybe electricians, builders, things like that, who've never really been on camera, but they understand they need to have that content there because their competition is doing it or their competition isn't doing it. And that's going to give them the edge, right? So month 1, we're setting you up. You're just experiencing the process. You're seeing how it goes. I always show people in the sales process how it works. That is my sales process, by the way. I don't do hardcore selling. I just show them like, hey, here's the spreadsheet you're going to get. Here's what's going to happen. And then, they just record and we meet every month. So we create these new topics for them based on them, their niche, their experiences, their audience. They get those topics, and we meet monthly to record a conversation about those topics. Now, let's say someone is underconfident. So that is most people on camera. They're going to notice that by the second session, the first session, let's say, takes an hour to do their videos. The second session is probably going to take them 40 minutes. Then the third one's going to take them 25 to 30 because they're just doing the repetition. They're getting better. They're getting more competency at what they're doing.
And then from there, like obviously the more efficient they get, the better they get, the more reels they can pump out in the shortest amount of time. Therefore, we're going to multiply their media.
Exactly that. So we're turning, potentially with some clients, we're turning 20 minutes into their month's worth of content, and they're getting the videos, but we also repurpose the videos into carousels. And we also take existing long form content that our client may have. So whether that's training, podcasts they've been on, stuff like that. And we will also repurpose that for them as well. So they're getting pretty much their entire month's worth of content done in that 20-minute session, plus say 10 minutes a month to review the videos and make sure they're happy with them.
That's fantastic. I want to cover one last topic, Connor, about branding in 2024. It's something I feel very, very strongly about, and I'll tell you why. My hero, Alex Hormozi, created a book called $100 Million Offers, and I think it's hurt the industry where they read the book, they started the marketing agency, they started the video content creation agency, they started XYZ thing, and there's just so much noise in the marketplace. Like there's more marketing agencies than businesses almost. There's more gym coaches than gyms. So coming from you, having so much experience, like where do you value brand in 2024 and how do you stand out?
Good question. I think brand, you've got to have a personality. It's not enough to just have the offer, like you said, because everyone's seen the offer because they're all modeling the $100 million offer template, right? So we'll get you 5,000 leads or you pay us nothing, right? Everyone's seen those offers everywhere. It's not enough to just have a sales. It's not enough to have an offer anymore. You've got to have a business that stands for something, whether that's you as a person, whether you are the face of the business or the brand stands for something. You have some core values that you operate in. You have transparency, I think, is going to get bigger and bigger. Transparency with pricing, optional, but recommended for most brands, not all brands. Transparency with clients. So I've said multiple times to my clients, hey, if you want to talk to my existing clients, let me know, and I'll put you in touch with like 3 or 4 of them. Because I can tell you how good we are all day long, but why not hear it from people that actually work with us and are working with us and how it's going for them. And being honest about the results you can get people as well. I never tell people we're going to make you go viral. And I know there are short form agencies that will say that. They cannot guarantee a result on organic.
Mate, but speaking about guarantees, I am just fed up with them. Like they are just absolute garbage. I have gym owners hop on the call. Can you guarantee me? I can't guarantee you shit.
Yeah, that's what I say. And I say, if anyone is and I say this all the time, if anyone can guarantee you that, I say, run for the fucking hills. Because you cannot guarantee an outcome in most businesses. I can guarantee you'll be satisfied with the service. I can guarantee that if you pay me my monthly fee, you're going to get what what's expected.
I literally say, hey, like I can't guarantee you shit, but like, here is my experience. Here is my evidence. Yeah. We're going to fucking work together as a partnership to make this happen. I'm not going to save your business. This is a joint venture. And I just think that transparency, honesty is so important, because if you need a guarantee to make a purchase, then like you are literally throwing out a lifeline to a stranger on the internet that you've just met to save your business. And I can't stand it, mate.
Yeah, there's someone who I don't love everything about the way they operate in their persona, but I think the way they do their guarantees and the stuff I learned from them. I've been subscribed to a guy called Ben Settle for years. He's an email copywriter. He's very divisive, very controversial. And like I said, I don't agree with everything he says or does. That I don't have to. It's a free world, right? You can choose what you like about them, choose what you don't like. But I've been subscribed to his paid newsletter for probably 4 or 5 years now. It's $100 a month US. And his guarantee doesn't have one. He says, do not buy this if you think this is what's going to happen, because it ain't. Right? He's like very clear. This is not what's going to happen. And also, if you want to cancel, no worries, but you won't be welcome back. It's like, it just lays it out. There's no hiding. There's no sneaking around. Like, here's your triple money back guarantee. Then when you go to get the money back guarantee, they just disappear, or they do every trick in the book. He's just like, no, there is no guarantee, and you can cancel, but you won't be allowed to sign up ever again. I love that. I think it's great.
And especially with like guarantees, right? Like I can speak from experience again. Like I started the podcast. We get about be 300 downloads a week. And then I get probably 20,000 views across all channels.
That's great.
The first 50 podcasts got one view, and it was my mum. And it just it's compounding now.
Yeah.
Right. But the idea the idea that you can guarantee me 1 month to go viral, it's harming the client to have that expectation. Like, hey, I can't make you go viral, but over a 12-month period, we are going to grow your audience of the right people that want to buy your shit.
Yeah. You're also potentially attracting bad clients as well. People who
100%.
demand the world. They expect the world, because you've also set that expectation. Whereas if you had said, no, we can't do that, cool, they might part ways and they'll go with someone else who promises that they can, but actually can't do it.
Mate, I'll wrap it up with one question. What's one thing that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
I think you've asked some great questions, to be honest.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to have to just reflect on that question for a moment.
Take your time, mate.
Yeah. Okay. I think you could have asked me, how do you know if an idea for marketing or copywriting or business is a good idea or not?
I'd love the answer to that question, mate.
I posted about it today, kind of related. Is to test it and validate it and stop seeking approval from other people. Let the market decide if your idea is good, if this approach is good or not. So something I've been very guilty of, and that's why I posted it as a reminder to myself, is before I launch, say, a new service under our umbrella of services, I'm always like messaging other business owners and gurus that I'm friends with and say, hey, can you just check out this idea I've got? And I'll get one guy that says, amazing idea, this is going to fucking crush it, great value. And then another guy that says, I don't know if there's demand for this, it seems a bit steep. Just fucking take your idea, test it, and let the market tell you. And that's true of your copy, of shooting your videos. So, don't always ask, oh, should I talk about this on video? Just talk about it. If you get 0 views and no comments, okay, that probably wasn't that interesting. And then you might post another time and you get 3 or 4 comments and a few more views. You're like, okay, that's a topic that I can keep talking about in different ways. Same with business ideas and stuff.
So, mate, I've got ADHD. I'm manic in the best possible way. That's actually my superpower. Is like, I have an idea and it just consumes my brain, and like I have to test it as fast as possible. Idea, add, launch, check it 24 hours later, and 9 times out of 10 they absolutely bomb.
Yeah.
But then, as you said, 1 out of 10 ads, 1 out of 10 landing pages. If you find that winner, if you find that idea, they're the ones that you can scale to the moon.
Absolutely, man. And it's having that mindset. I guess for me, like if I'm being honest and vulnerable, something I recognize in myself is some of it was ego. Like no one wants to be perceived as a failure, someone who's tried these things, but actually no one's perceiving you like that. That's just you creating your own problem, or me creating my own problem inside my head. And I can speak about this because I know a lot of other people go through the same thing. I can't tell you how many times I've got like 3 group chats with different people on my messenger, how many times I've sent them an idea or a thought. You know what? I should stop doing that and just...
Is that a feeling of like imposter? Like what is that feeling?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Imposter syndrome. And it's always reassuring to know that there's people above me and below me that also have imposter syndrome. I think most business owners experience it to a degree. It's being able to push past that, right? Even with the video content business, when I first started that, I was like, is this a good idea? Isn't this a good idea? It's a fucking great idea. I should have just pulled the trigger sooner instead of procrastinating for 3 months about whether it's a good idea or not.
And you said before that you only work with clients that you know that can get someone a result. If you stay in your lane, you can get them a result, then you have every fucking right to try everything that you want. So I spoke to, just before this call, I had 3 UFC gyms in Sydney. The gyms are worth $20 million. They're 3 old men in their 50s. Who the fuck am I to be 34 years old and say, hey, like, you need to grow your group gym component because it's getting harder for 24/7 access because you've got Fitness Cartel, EMF, World Gym around you. And for half an hour, I just went, boo. And like, I didn't feel like an imposter because like, I know what I'm talking about. And I think like, if you ever consistently feel like that imposter, if you ever consistently feel like, then don't talk about it. But like, I can speak for you, Connor, mate. That landing page you wrote us was a fucking work of art. Like, and it really helped our conversions too. So like, just like, everyone believe in yourself, have confidence. At the end of the day, no one really cares that much anyway.
Yeah, exactly. The only person that's actually worried or gives a shit is you. So all that perception of people judging you and all that stuff, it's not actually reality. There's a stat online somewhere, which I'm going to butcher. I'm just making up the numbers here, but it's something ridiculous like 90% of the things we worry about will never happen. Of the 10% that do, 7% are out of our control anyway. So there's nothing you can do about it. So you literally, the only 3% of your worries are actually legitimate worries. So for every 100 worry you have, only 3 of them are actually worth worrying about. I think that's a good way to put the thing in perspective.
And I want to wrap this up with one thing you said before I thought was really, really impactful, that you have people above you, people that below you that you validate your ideas with. I'll also go out and live and say that most people are full of shit.
Oh,
as in I've been inside some big, like I'm talking like the biggest franchises in the world. And I have independent gym owners come to me and said, "Oh, that gym down the road is so successful. Look at their Saturday morning session. I've worked with that gym. They're not making money."
I think
that is the reason why you don't have confidence in your gym, because you make this assumption that like shit goes wrong for me every day. Every day something goes wrong.
Yeah.
It's part of it.
Yeah, you're seeing the highlight reel, and I think as marketers and salespeople, we get exclusive look under the hood of a lot of businesses that the average person doesn't get to see. I guess, not to sound superior in any way, I don't think that, but we do. We get unique insight. I've written for in the past. I wrote for billionaires who couldn't pay my retainer fee on time each month because they didn't have the cash flow. You know what I mean? It's like you see the real behind the scenes, not the polished fake bullshit that gets posted on social media.
Yeah. And if billionaires are running late on an invoice, pick up the camera and hit record.
Yeah.
Well, mate, I really, really appreciate you coming on our podcast. I was really excited for our chat. I meant what I said before, like the landing page that you wrote for us was magical. It's something I've used for literally 4 years. It's something that I model to our clients, so they're getting the benefit of that page too. And I didn't even know it was important until I was in Systems by Design, and you just absolutely slaughtered our page in the best possible way.
Yeah, I would have done it from a place of kindness. I never made people feel bad.
But it made such a difference. And being in that program, learning from you, the copywriting, the landing pages, it's something I've used on camera in our VSL. So, mate, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thanks for sharing your time with me, mate. I had a good time, and hopefully, yes, someone listening to this somewhere found something useful in the nonsense I had to say for the last hour.
Mate, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Cheers, mate.
All right, bye.